face to face, a couple of silver spoons, hoping to find.
Is that from the? Is that the thing? Is that the opening song for Silver Spoons?
Yeah.
I didn't recognize it. I remember Silver Spoons.
Yeah.
But didn't he have that cool train?
Yeah, and he had the race car bed. Yeah. He had like everything. Yeah, like he had like video games in the front room.
Dream come true. Every kid loved watching Silver Spoons. All right.
Yep.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Brandon.
Welcome to the Gnostic Deluge.
Welcome. Good to be here once again, and I hope we got our microphones working.
Yeah.
Tested them all out.
Yeah, we've been working on the Gnostic Deluge studio. We hope that everything's going good.
Yeah.
We got our audio figured out.
Yeah, and thanks for people who have been listening. Actually,
iTunes
now that we've put it on
iTunes
audio only, we've had a lot more people listen to it. We even had a subscriber, so
yeah,
which is cool.
Which is revolutionary.
Yeah, like somebody that we don't know that's subscribed. Anyway, so hopefully somebody's getting something out of it, as much or half as much as we are. Cause
do you think that now that there could be someone listening that we're actually going to be like trying harder now?
Sure.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think that hopefully they can just get better and better as we do it more. I think that's but let's bust out. I want one of those spicy things that you had.
So we're going to start off with a ginger beer reaction. For me, it's just a it's not a true reaction for me. I've already had this particular one, but for Mark, it's a reaction. Right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So while he's getting those, we're gonna do the next three books after the Shepherd of Men in the Hermetica. Yeah. And we're doing GRS Meads
in his order, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Order. So we need an opener. Here we go.
You got an opener in here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you ready for this, Mark?
Let's see. Cheers.
Lanalar Source Fiery Ginger Beer.
Lanalar Fiery.
I want to put a plug.
It says fiery.
I want to put a plug in for Lanalar. This is my favorite snob water. I drink their snob water. They have water, like a nice bottle of water.
Oh, I can taste the fire right off the bat. Okay, so yeah, it's definitely. It's got. I don't know, man. I think my favorite is Fever Tree.
Fever Tree.
I'm just saying this one.
The fire doesn't.
This one more has the spice, or the hotness from chili pepper or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than the spice of ginger.
Yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying. The strength,
Speaking of spicy. What about the Hermetica?
A nice segue.
Dude. No. Anyway, so this one's this is pretty interesting. We there's enough in here to have an episode.
Yeah,
I think as we go through, it'll begin to establish the basic Hermetic teachings or doctrine.
That's what I was getting from this. Is we went through Shepherd of Men, and there was a lot of stuff in Shepherd of Men.
Yeah,
Comandries.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was very
reading the next three. I had already read the Cup or the Monad previous, but my take was that this is kind of like the real value will come from going through a lot of these, and then being able to like, oh yeah, this is what I remember. This was being mentioned in the Shepherd of Men, and
yeah,
and I found a lot of some reiterations in these ones.
Yeah, I think that this will be because that doesn't mean say that the Shepherd of Men was like the best of them.
Yeah,
the
his
most
opinion was it was
concise.
the most important.
Yeah, because it has it all in there and a nice overview of it. So now we got to kind of get into some of the doctrine, deeper into the doctrines, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was looking at. Sorry,
Mark is looking at his phone right now.
Well, because
What are you doing, man? This is
Well, this is an
recording.
interesting thing that
Okay.
I found out. Okay, because the first one is the general sermon of us
which is
to
which is
Asclepius.
gone. The first no. So there's the general sermon, which is gone.
Wait,
The
what?
general sermon is lost.
Oh, you're saying? Oh, okay,
Go back to the previous one.
this one. What do you mean?
So there's actually you keep on going.
Okay.
Wait, what is this? The Shepherd of Men?
No, yeah, this is the Shepherd of Men. Are you talking about the notes? What do you?
There's the missing text.
There is?
Yeah.
How?
So
Oh. That's in the notes.
okay.
Okay, because I thought that was just a neat summary. I was like, this is cool. Wait.
So
I don't think so, Brandon.
what I'm referring to is Mead breaks it down to 17 texts,
Yeah.
and the first one is the Shepherd of Men. The second one is called the General Sermon.
That's this one. That's the one. The general sermon to Asclepius. What do you... Brandon. See, you downloaded to Asclepius, but that's just a different...
No.
Whoa, Brandon. What? No, that's a totally different... That's in the extra stuff, I think.
No, to Asclepius. The third text is to Asclepius.
Okay. Yeah. That's...
Yeah.
But I'm saying in this book, they call it the general sermon.
All right. We will. Hey, maybe if we do a smorgasbord, we'll talk about this. So I was under the. Well, I'll finish my thought.
Oh, okay.
I was under the
I was
impression,
like, what?
and I've been under this impression for a while now. Before we even started going through this, that out of the 17 texts, one of them, and I thought it was called the General Sermon, was actually lost.
No, that's part of. Okay, according to Mead's thing, the beginning of this general sermon is lost.
Okay.
So you're right. It's just this is because look, it begins the same. All that is moved.
All that is moved.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this.
So anyway, there is part of it
whether it's an actual text or whether it's a part of one.
Yeah, it's a part of it. It's at least a partial text. So he's anyway. But interesting thing though, the guy Asclepius.
Yeah, I love this.
You do?
Yeah. Well,
you married, dude? No.
Oh, because in Arizona you can only marry one woman.
Well, Asclepius is a guy, right?
Yeah, but is
anyway. Well, okay. Anyway, the whole thing. I was just listening to the Cave in the Light.
Yeah.
And
Great
all of a
book.
sudden I heard the name Asclepius come up, and I was like,
yeah, the Greek god.
well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, so this guy's got the same name. So yeah, I wrote down
So
the god of medicine in Greek.
Yeah, there's a lot to go. You can go down a rabbit hole on this one.
You can?
Yeah, I did because I did it. I went down the rabbit hole.
Show us just a peek into the rabbit hole.
So
Like,
Asclepius
related to this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the
This
thing
is
is
interesting.
this is this is to Asclepius, and we have to assume that this is like one of Hermes's students,
Yeah.
right? But Asclepius is the name of a Greek god, and not an insignificant one either. Like he's a lot of history, and he has a lot. He has a lot to do with Apollo and Hermes as well.
Oh.
And there's lots of stories about how he's the god of medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he has a staff with a serpent on the staff, and there's lots of interesting stories.
Oh, the serpent on the staff.
Yeah, there's lots of interesting stories that you have to wonder about the parallels between cultures.
That is okay.
So,
I mean, Moses and
all kinds of
Jesus.
Yeah, and we already know that Hermes is something we've already discussed in a previous episode. That Hermes, there's a lot of theorizing about whether Hermes is Thoth or Enoch, or there's even some that believe he's Abraham. But the thing is, you have these different cultures, and we have these Greek gods, we have these Hebrew patriarchs, and we have these Egyptian gods. And sometimes it seems like they kind of confuse each other. They get confused about who's who.
Yeah.
And
Or they have parallels. Like, they get, mixed up.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing that with reading the Cave in the Light. I mean, I know we're kind of, but and then this, and then knowing stuff about Christianity and stuff. You're just like, oh, they're all coming from a same source. You know, like an earlier totally. Source. Yeah. Like you're like, wait, they've been debating this kind of stuff for, thousands of years.
So like, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, start doing some research on Asclepius, the Greek god.
Okay,
it's really interesting, and he has there's a lot of stories with him in it.
All right. Well, so this one is this Asclepius is Hermes' student.
Yeah.
So but anyway, I just was like, oh wait, that's the same name.
Yep.
And so there might be something to why they use the name or not. I'm not sure, but I just thought that was interesting.
It is,
and obviously you did too, because you went down this
rabbit hole.
Yep. Well, so okay, I'm gonna do a little thing with Brandon, because I wrote out this whole little thing.
Did you?
Yeah, and it's basically because he uses what I like the Socratic method to establish. I think it's the Socratic method, or is it? Anyway, I don't know. Where he says,
I like it.
First, okay, Brandon, if in order for something to move, it has to be moved by a force or something, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
I agree.
And that which moves the thing has to be greater or a greater force than that which is moved, right?
Not if you're Archimedes. But yes, in theory, yes.
No, you follow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
definitely.
Okay. So the mover is a greater power.
Yeah.
All right.
Whether it's greater or it has a greater power, I think it's greater power, right? So the mover is a greater power.
I'm saying the power.
Definitely.
That's the thing, is I'm not talking about necessarily the thing is going to be
like size.
Yeah. That's why Archimedes could, but it's a greater power that he's able to use by using his levers.
His brain.
Yeah. Actually, that whole Archimedes thing was really interesting in the Cave in the Light.
Another plug for the Cave in the Light.
Oh, that book's so good. Anyway, so we've got a few things established. So the mover's nature is different than the moved.
Yes.
Anyway, this is.
Yes, I agree. Definitely. I'm playing Asclepius right now.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I guess we could just read it, but I'm just trying to make it a little more. So, is the cosmos is so vast that there's no greater body, right?
Correct.
I mean, it's the cosmos.
I agree.
Everything's in it, and so massive that all fits into it.
Yes.
Okay, but the cosmos is a body, correct?
Yes, the cosmos is a body.
A moving body? Anyway, these are just all questions. And then that's just, I don't, and then he asks, how big is the space in which it's moved? Okay, so that you establish that with the cosmos, but then you're like, well, if it's a moving body, what is it moved by? Okay, so you're starting with this little thing, and also you're going to the cosmos, and you're like, the cosmos is big. It's vast. It's huge. It's the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
But then you're like, well, it's a moving body, right? And then it's like, oh, well, but if it's a moving body, what is it moved by?
Ooh, deep.
Yeah. So actually, he gets you with this one. This one's better than, I think, if you read the Republic, like, you're kind of like, okay, this one at least kind of tricks you in a way, or into, oh, well, we established this, but if we establish this other thing, and then it's like, oh, well, there has to be something bigger to move it. And so that thing that's bigger, or the thing that's moving the cosmos, let's see. So it must be above. So it must be as above, and this body. So a body is moved by a bodiless. Anyway, it's this opposite thing. Okay, well, if the cosmos is a body that's moving, and we already agreed, back in the thing that the thing that moves is different than the thing the things that moves is different than the thing that moved. Most assuredly, yeah. There you go. So if the cosmos is a body, then whatever's moving it has to be bodiless, has to be different. Anyway, so this is the way he gets to eventually kind of like, okay, well, we've already established that, so now we can talk about God.
Yeah, so he kind of gives this, he kind of like almost gives this preamble or this introduction to his discussion with some logic on. Let's get some numbers figured out here, and then once we understand something, then we can go forward.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I understand that it's part of the way that this is written. I mean, this is the same. The Shepherd of Men was the same way. It's basically it's a discussion between two people, but the Shepherd of Men was an angel.
Well, I mean,
something,
but this one's very Greek. You know, very very Greek logic.
Yes, totally.
Like
often when I was reading through
trying
these,
to say.
Often I would think to myself, especially because I've been reading / listening to Cave in the Light. I would be like, when I was reading through this, I'm like, wow, this is kind of like the whole like, syllogies thing. Like, well, if this is this, then this must be this.
Yeah, yeah. You're just like, and the funny thing is that, well, in the like, it was obviously Plato that was writing the, like the Republic. And so he was able to make the story to where the guy would give a little like resistance, and then he'd be like, "Oh, you're right," and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
But so in this thing they use the same kind of way of, I think it's the reason, the showing how, oh well, this is reasonable. This is to walk you through and then say, okay, well now we've established this, so now we can talk about God. Without resistance, because we've already reasoned our way.
Correct. No,
So
that's a good analysis there. I didn't see that before, but that's kind of what's happened, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, in my notes, I have that. So that it goes verses 1 through 12 are just to establish and to get to what God is. And then after that are the real meat of where he really wants to go.
That's a good strategy there, Mark. So the first 12 verses are basically giving us a definition of how great and how bodiless and all encompassing God is.
Yeah. And how reasonable the whole idea is too.
That's a good way to start. Yeah.
So, and then Asclepius asks, well, what then is God?
That's where it all starts.
Finally. Yeah, it gets to it. Cause,
what then is God?
Because Asclepius was kind of like, yep.
Got it. So what is God?
Verily, it's true, Yeah. So then finally Asclepius is...
and then he says, not any of these.
Yeah, and then this is the interesting part where he starts talking about what God isn't and what God is.
Yeah.
In verse, well, I'm trying to, do you want to read where Hermes, or in the 14 answer? What sayest thou ever then God is? In 14 where Hermes,
when he says God is not mind.
Yeah.
So what sayest thou ever then God is? So then what do you say? Then what is God? Translation.
Yeah.
What is God then? Well, God therefore is not mind, but cause that the mind is. God is not spirit, but cause that the spirit is. God is not light, but causes that the light is. Hence should one honor God with these two names, the good and the Father, which is in brackets, as if Mead added that perhaps.
Well, because he establishes that's the two names he's talking about.
So hence one should honor with these two names names which pertain to him alone and no one else.
So he kind of like, he doesn't really directly answer him.
No.
Or he answers him kind of, well, it's like, he's not mind, but cause that mind is. He's not spirit, but cause that spirit is. You know, it's like he's answering in these, I don't know what you would even call it. But he's not these things.
No, he's answering. He's answering with another like question or another parable, like a thinking. What is? Have you? So the you know what this sounds like to me? This line right here. This reminds me of the very first number, the Tao Te Ching number 1. We'll go over that sometime.
Okay.
I don't want to go down another rabbit hole, but that reminds me of it.
It's the same kind of thing.
The name and the nameless and the whole like.
Oh, like these opposites that they're using, and you're like, but that isn't okay. What?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's basically he's like, well, he's not these things. He's the cause of these things, but all these things that he's saying, he's trying to establish that God is the author of good, or good.
Yeah.
Because it goes on, for no one of the other can be in any measure good, but God alone, and he is good alone and nothing else. The rest of the things are separable, all from good's nature.
Yeah.
So God is like this, this kind of goes with the Greek thing too, with the numbers and stuff. The later on the monad, this indivisible number.
Yeah.
You know, kind of the atom or whatever, but
the smallest,
the indivisible number, that he is just, and what am I trying to say? Something with good. He can't be separated. He's in. So
yeah, it's not that for him good isn't a virtue.
Here's another way they say it, is like he's not separable from good because he is good. Kind of like,
yeah,
he's the cause of good.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're typing the word good and you forget to put an O and you accidentally type God.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, it's like the cosmos is talking to you right there. Like when I'm saying, "Hey, sounds good," and I push enter.
Sounds God.
And then the person I'm typing to, because I'm typing to, we don't talk on the phone these days. So the person that I'm talking to, I accidentally typed to them, "Hey, it sounds God." And then you have to wonder, wait, but isn't God the same thing as good?
Well, that's what he wanted to get to in this. So,
no, that's how I interpreted it. Is for God, good is not like a virtue that God like has, and that's what Hermes is trying to say. It's good. God is good.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like, and this is where Hermetic philosophy kind of starts to differentiate itself a little bit from others. Is, in my opinion, is if I were to ask Mark, like, hey, have you done anything? Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Good.
Have you done anything? Well, you could have said God right now.
I mean, God.
but have you done anything good today? And you're sure, yeah, I've done some good things today. But the thing is
then you say, there's none good but God.
Yeah, and then
I'm like,
yep. It reminds me of the Old Testament verse. I think it's in Proverbs, or wait, where is it at? I can't think of where it's at. I only know the verse, but it says, "Be still and know that I am God." Right?
Yeah.
And so, in that perspective,
yeah.
In that, when I think about that, I think about how, and this is where the Hermetic philosophy comes in. I think I was starting to get lost for a second. This is the Hermetic philosophy, is when I'm doing good, true good. In that moment, I'm God. That's deep, but you see, I think this is where the
or you're doing the work of God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, or you can say, yeah, because
exactly.
it goes on, call not thou therefore aught else good, for thou would wouldst impious be. I love that. Wouldst impious be, nor anything at all at any time call God, but good alone. See? This is where you, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He actually was saying what you, so, call, nor anything at all at any time call God, but good alone. And then, though the good is spoken of by all, it is not understood by all. Not only is God not understood by all. Oh, wait, where was I going? Oh, I lost my...
Don't do it, Mark.
But both unto the gods and now... Anyway, so I don't know where I was going with that second part. It's just something I had highlighted.
The end of verse 16 said, or the midpoint, it says...
God is not understood by all, neither is good. Everybody speaks of good, but they don't understand it. Anyway, good not out of courtesy, but out of nature. Oh, I don't know. Now I'm just reading random stuff.
See, this is crazy, huh? This is kind of the way this is worded is confusing.
Yeah.
And especially when you throw in words like wouldst.
Anyway, I liked where he was saying what you were saying. That was cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Well, anyway, so he's just establishing God is the good, and the good is God.
I think in the last verse, there's a little bit of what you were referring to earlier as the Greek logic that what we see in this.
Okay.
Is it goes from God and then turning into how God makes all things, or why he makes right.
Well,
it does in the kind of Greek style, right?
In 17?
Yeah, it says.
Well, I just wanted to read something real quick.
Go for it.
Because he finally says what good is.
At the end of 16.
And it's God.
The last line of 16.
Yeah. God, the good is he who gives all things and not receives. So that's what his definition of good is. He who gives all things and not receives. So anyway, so he's not doing it. He's just kind of out there creating and whatever, letting things
true
and not receiving anything.
That's a good segue into another discussion about like why God creates.
Well, and that'll come up later in different sermons. But you were talking about God being the creator, the Father.
Yeah, the other name of God is Father, right? Because he is that which maketh all. The part of Father is to make. So that's why we call him Father, because he's a maker.
Yeah. Right? Well, I wanted to. Mead talks. He actually in his notes talks about, because if this sounds kind of familiar, that God is good, there's a few things in Mark 10:18, Luke, and this is in the Bible, Luke 18:19, Matthew 19:17, that have the same thing where Jesus says the same thing. I'll read Mark 10:18. Wait, this guy comes up to him, kneels, and when he was gone forth into the way, there came one running and kneeled to him and asked him, and he says, "Good master, what shall I do that I may inherit eternal life?"
Okay.
So he calls him good master.
Or God master.
Well, this is where, and Jesus said unto him, "Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one. Guess who? That is God."
It's almost like you can replace the word "good" with "God" in these verses, and it takes your mind to a loftier sphere right there.
Well, I know, but what's okay? Actually, I didn't think about this, but now that I read the thing, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? So he asks a pretty big question.
Yeah.
So, but Jesus decides, you know what? We need to address this first. So is this part of the understanding that is needed to inherit eternal life? He's like, first off, you called me good master. there's none good but God. This is so. Actually, is he diverting? Like, oh wait, I need to correct what you said there. But to be a jerk, or is he doing it to say to actually answer his question and say, well, first off, in order to gain eternal life, let me tell you one thing: there's none good but God.
That's a good point.
That's what
we don't see that first part as actually the answer yet.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
You're like, well, then later on he'll talk about it because then
no, he's answering him right away.
He answers him right away because then he goes through and talks about the commandments and the guy's like, oh, I've done all these, and then he goes on and tells him some deeper thing, like sell all that thou hast,
and that is where Mead pulled this from, is because that's what it says in here, and this to Asclepius is, when you have to get good, as the way to obtain good is to basically give all, and what was the wording for it? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, dude, yeah. It is the good is he who gives all and not receives. Oh shoot! Nice. So, but one of the things I want to emphasize in this is that just because these are the same things, we're like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
Well, somebody stole it from somebody.
Yeah. It's not it's not a coincidence.
Like, or... Well, no, but it's saying it kind of is it comes from the same thought line, but it wasn't like whoever wrote the Bible looked at the Hermes thing, or whoever wrote the Hermes text.
Yeah. What is? I see what you're saying. So what is?
What Mead says, and he's like, okay, I need to clarify it just to make sure that he said at first sight we might at first sight almost persuade ourselves that the treatise had these Christian declarations immediately in mind. But the general phenomenon of similarity of diction,
big word,
yeah, and the idea that the trismegistic literature with those of the New Testament documents can be explained by the fact that both literatures use mainly the common Hellenistic theological phrases of the time. So he wants to say, well, it's not that they copied each other. Mm-hmm. Because that's where my mind goes. I'm like, well, who wrote it first? Sure, yeah. And it's like, well, it's just they're all coming out of this Hellenistic way to talk about God.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why they're similar.
And that's why they sound similar.
Yeah. But they do sound very similar. You're just like, and especially when we explain a little more, and it's like, whoa, I didn't realize that was there.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's cool. So anyway, so he says, just calm down, guys. We need not distress ourselves with any suggestions, either of plagiarism or of direct controversy.
I'm glad Mead clarified that.
Yeah, thanks, Mead.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Because there were some upset people.
Thanks, George Robert Stowe Mead.
George Robert Stowe. Like, that's awesome that he has that many names.
Yeah, George Robert Stowe. GRS is a mouthful,
It's almost a name.
Has
it's almost a name in itself, though.
Yeah.
Gris Mead.
Gris.
J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
Tolkien. Anyway, that's the thing, is that this whole thing is to establish the good, or what God is, so like Jesus did in that other one, is that, hey, first off,
let's make a point here.
Let's make a point. But he doesn't go through all the, okay. Fortunately, Jesus doesn't go through the thing where he's like, okay, if something's moved, if you hit a marble with another marble, what is it? He doesn't go through that, but it's the basic same doctrine, and it all comes from the Hellenistic, thinking. And if you ever read any kind of Plato or whatever, or listen to a really good book on it called The Cave and the Light, you'll be like, oh, okay, that's understand. You'll be able to understand more where all this stuff came from, or when it was written. But it probably was around before that too. But Anyway, so
Thank you, Mark. Should we mention the last part in this? What mentions the children or?
I don't think it's that.
What I do think it was funny though is this would paraphrase it real quick. There is a mention of like, hey, you need to have.
Oh yeah.
You need to have kids.
This is actually do mention this because this is a weird one because you're like, what?
So he says, wherefore child making is a very great and most pious thing in life. For them who make aright and to leave life on earth without a child is very great misfortune and impiety. And he who hath no child is punished by the daemons after death.
Okay, but yeah, the next.
And it says, and this the punishment that the man's soul who hath no child shall be condemned into a body with neither man's nor woman's nature, a thing accursed beneath the sun.
So he's gonna. I mean, first off, so he's gonna be made smooth or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's gonna be an androgynous, right? Wouldn't that be like no?
Yeah.
I guess, and it's just weird, but I like how the priest in one of the thing he's like,
I doubt it or something like
that. A scribe of the 13th century has laconically written on the margin of this paragraph the single word nonsense.
Yeah. Because they're mostly monks, right?
Yeah, he's presumably
most definitely a monk.
So he's just like, this. I don't know why this is in here. This is just ridiculous.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to really fit in with it either.
No, it doesn't.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
So it might be like a.
Anyway, so that's an interesting thing. So the whole general sermon gets the point that is made, or that we seem to get, is that God is good. So, and that's his nature. And I think sometimes I'm like, well, I think that it's his nature, or good might not be the best word. It's just maybe, God doesn't care, but he just creates.
Yeah,
he's not doing anything in it with bad intentions. You know what I'm saying? Right. Maybe not.
It's almost like he just. I get this picture when I'm reading through these kind of texts and stuff. I get this picture in my mind of this ultimate awareness, or this higher being that's so high that it just goes about just creating and doesn't even look back. Kind of, you know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's not malicious intentions, and so it almost seems like it's outside of the God of the Bible.
Yeah,
especially the Old Testament.
It's almost like we're talking about
where he wouldn't be concerned so much with.
Well, it's almost like it's almost like we're talking about God's the gods is God. Like we talk about
the God of the gods.
Yeah, like the highest thing possible.
When actually they do talk kind of about different gods and stuff, but whenever they're it seems like in these texts, and we'll get into whenever actually in this next one, the sacred sermon. Okay, yeah, we'll get where there's these. Okay, one of the things. Okay, is the gods are a lot of times are associated with the 7 planets.
Yeah,
which are the rulers of our
the 7 rulers.
The 7 rulers.
5 planets, and then the sun and the moon.
Yeah. And they were so God is their God.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's Anyway, but we can transition into the sacred sermon, because the sacred sermon's interesting because it's short. It's 4 verses. I guess we could just read straight through it, but we're not going to.
No.
So it just, the very beginning establishes what we already talked about in
the Shepherd of Men.
Yeah.
The kind of
the
like
moist nature, darkness,
the
creation,
the merge between darkness, light, and nature, and like this creation.
I think where it starts to get a little different, or as it goes a little deeper into the 7 the gods.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven was seen in 7 circles its gods were made visible in forms of stars with all their signs. You see that this is right in verse 2. So and I'm trying to see what I have written here. Those seven planets have an effect on man and the world's nature.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes with astrology.
Yeah, this is referencing the zodiac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that there, and also the nature of the universe. Anyway, read the beginning of verse 3.
The beginning of it?
Yeah, just okay. I don't know. Maybe we'll.
All right. And every god by his own proper power brought forth what was appointed him.
Okay.
Thus there arose 4-footed beasts and creeping things, and those that in the water dwell, and things with wings, and everything that beareth seed, and grass, and shoot of every flower, all having themselves a seed of again becoming. Okay. That kind of goes with the creation.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to say, but it's by the power of the universe, or of these, even the rotations and it seems like of the different planets and everything, that all these things are come into being.
Yeah. So, and then it says, this is what you're referring to, lordship over the over all beneath the heaven, and gnosis of its blessings, that they might increase in increasing and multiply in multitude, and every soul enfleshed by revolution of the cyclic.
Oh yeah. This is actually
for observation of the marvels of the heaven and heaven's God revolution, and of the works of God and energy of nature, for tokens of its blessings, for gnosis of the power of God.
So,
and then it mentions fate, that they might know the fates that follow good and evil, and learn the cunning work of all the good arts. So, this is This is basically just referencing how, everything's created, but they're subject to this. They're subject to the fate provided to them by the cyclical nature of this.
But also,
clock.
Okay. Also, though, it talks about how they can gain knowledge through observing the heavens, right?
Yeah, it does. In gnosis,
beneath the heaven, and gnosis of its blessings, knowledge of its blessings, they might increase and increasing and multiply in multitude, and every soul and flesh. Okay, what am I? That by looking at nature and observing the movement of the planets and stuff, they can begin to understand God and fate and different things. If I'm making sense, am I?
Yeah, I think verse 4 helps us.
But this reminds me of Enoch. Remember the whole, whenever the Watchers, or the part of the thing that God was so upset with them in there was about them, the tracking of the stars, astrology, and being able to figure out their fate.
Yeah, they were figuring exactly. No, they were kind of cheating. Like, hey, we're figuring out what we can foresee the future.
So this is almost saying the opposite, though, that they might know the fates that follow good and evil, and learn the cunning. That's the works of all the good arts.
That's a good point. This is kind of like taking. This is like siding up with that, and like saying, hey, that's actually wise to do.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's okay, and then in verse 4, that's.
And thus there begins their living and their growing wise, according to the fate appointed by the revolution of the cyclic gods, and their decreasing for this end.
Okay.
And my favorite part of verse 4 is the next line.
Okay, well let's just talk about this, so that it's by observing nature, though, that you're learning, you begin to become wise.
Yeah.
That's how you begin to know God and understand his goodness, right? Or like in the previous thing. So, and then, the next verse is really interesting.
And there shall be memorials mighty of their handiworks upon the earth, leaving dim trace behind when cycles are renewed. I actually quoted this in one of our first, remember that?
Yeah.
One of our first videos. Um, for every birth of flesh and soul, and of the fruit of the seed, and every handiwork, though it decay, shall of necessity renew itself, both by the renovation of the gods and by the turning round of nature's rhythmic wheel.
Okay, well, so why is that verse, the first one that you quoted, so important? Or what? Why is it like this is like the biggest verse in the whole thing? You're like, what? Oh, that makes sense. You know?
Yeah, which
Like,
part of it? The mighty memorial part?
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, when I first read that, and I've read it a few times since, and there should be mighty memorials, mighty of their handiworks upon the earth, leaving dim trace behind when cycles are renewed. So right now, what Hermes is talking about is how, like, nature, and between nature and the cyclical nature of this whole cosmos, like, things will come and go,
yeah, be
and
destroyed and
destroyed and then
reestablished.
restart again.
Yeah, and then, but they'll be
And but the thing is like, when they build like a massive pyramid, that's not going to be just going away. It's going to take a long time for that to erode into the earth.
yeah.
And so there will be things left behind, like leaving a dim trace.
As a reminder that you know what, people knew this before.
Yeah, exactly.
And always, and I wrote here, pyramids, mounds, Gobekli Tepe. You know, like
Hoover Dam.
Hoover. That's true, actually, because they have all that stuff there. They tried to do something like that actually with the Hoover Dam, but I'm saying these things that are a dim trace of what the previous generations knew.
Yeah.
Like, and we're like, oh my gosh, they were able to calculate the size of the world, blah blah, or they lined up the pyramids with certain stars, and all that.
But things keep on, the clock keeps on ticking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And maybe and they can be a warning too, possibly.
Yeah, for those who seek it, for
Like,
those who
hey,
like go in and like investigate it and trying to discover gnosis, right? For those
Yeah.
who want to see it,
yeah.
they can find it.
Instead of just a nice story, it's like, hey, well, these people had a pretty good civilization going, and what the heck happened?
Yeah.
It's you can learn all kinds of stuff from history, but also like whenever mathematics, even just with Greek things, and like the Pythagoras and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
whenever that was rediscovered, whenever the Arabs, the Arabs
Picked it up.
reintroduced it, and then started kind of the Renaissance, whenever all the lost writings of
Good point. The mighty memorials don't even have to be things from like previous cycles of humanity. They could be from previous eras and previous dispensations as well. Good point.
Yeah. Well, but I'm saying, the big ones are like the pyramids and stuff, and I don't think that there's been quite as much enough curiosity. I mean, there's obviously curiosity.
Yeah, the
about
pyramids,
them,
there's a problem with the fact that like you just can't go in there and study them. Like there's like government that kind of controls that situation. And it's like we're not allowed to go discover what's really there. But good point.
I don't know. So
what's interesting with that particular text is it wasn't a question. It wasn't a master's to student discussion. It was just a right.
Just as general. Not even general. It's called the Sacred Sermon for some reason. It's just kind of a weird, like, really shortened version of. And then it says that. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting short guy. All right.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. So basically, but then the big thing that we like is the whole thing about the handiwork, and that talking. Oh, and the cycles being renewed.
Yeah.
Like, kind of, it's almost like a impermanence that you learn about, that you think you're established, the civilization, but there's cycles the earth goes through. Whenever the flood happened, or floods, or whatever, or a comet hitting the earth, and the end of the Ice Age. What the heck? Like, I don't know how those people were living, but then all of a sudden, in a split second, that was over.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you see a dim trace of what they had, or some of what they had. The only things that exist could stick around were, the stone structures,
things that would last forever.
Yeah, because think
no
about
what happened. Yeah.
Think about here, if there's like a solar flare or whatever, and destroyed all the electricity and stuff. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, it wouldn't take too much.
No,
there's actually a book that's written about like how easy it would be. I think it's like that. It's called like the last. I have to find it. The last like 24 hours, but some guy wrote a book about like how easy it would actually be to like take everything out. Like, we think like, oh, it'll take a huge thing to like take out everything.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It wouldn't take much, and I'm saying, and that's just one little thing. But imagine something catastrophic,
And the Hermetic view, the Hermetic question to be asked from this is this cyclical nature? Is that change, right? And that's what I like. Is it the cup of the monad that talks about how that's actually not change? That's like stable. It's consistent, right?
Really?
Yeah. Like we see. So from our viewpoint, in our less than a century lifetime, we see things happening. And we go, lots of changes are happening, and they are changes in a way.
Yeah. Well, an example would be, let's just take politics out of it, but like in the 70s, there's a big thing that there's a new ice age coming.
Okay.
So I'm not going to talk about global warming or whatever.
Okay.
Because whatever.
Sure.
I'm saying this is, and then eventually. Oh wait, what am I?
Change, ice age.
I know.
Global warming. You're getting all political, Mark.
Well, no, because I was like, well, the global warming would be better because that is one that people are saying is man caused, right? And it's like, well, or, I mean, yeah, man definitely has a part in it, but there's also the whole freaking world, the nature, that it's the globe is not just some stable thing that never changes. Okay, that's what you're saying. I just didn't want to. I wanted to kind of tap around global warming because I don't want to.
Yeah, you wanted to. You want to.
I don't want to be political.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Because it's not.
Yeah. You don't have any. You have no clue where we stand on that. I don't have a stance.
Then obviously, I don't know. But anyway, so
the way I like to think about it, and I think we'll get into more of this in the Cup of the Monad, but the way I like to think about it is people, when you look at like a wall clock and the hour, and the minute and the hour hands are moving down to the right and rotating. Sometimes we look at that and we go, oh yeah, that's change, seeing something move. But the thing is like, I can tell you that in 5 minutes that hand's going to be from there to there. That's not change. That's stable. Right?
Yeah, it's a system.
Change is if the hand started all of a sudden turning the other direction.
Yeah.
And that, or if it stopped.
Yeah.
That's change.
Well, I'm saying, yeah, there's fluctuations in whatever, but it's not. Yeah.
Okay. Should we let the Cup of the Monad do the rest of the talking?
Yeah.
Okay.
The cup.
Should we break it? Or should we do the Cup of the Monad in different? Should we keep it in this one? Yeah. Throw it in.
What time are we at? Can you tell?
53. Man, we just banter forever.
No. Well. Yeah. We're. You know what? We'll end this one with those two, and then we'll do.
Sweet, and then we can open up. We can start the next one with a new.
Yeah, I'm getting a little parched.
Yeah.
So anyway, hopefully some of this made some sense. I don't know.
Probably didn't.
No, there are some cool things actually that
I think there is.
I was like, oh wait, I didn't realize, because I was like, oh, that's cool that there's a link between the Bible and what's in here. But then I didn't realize, oh, if you really look into it, it's actually really, like the Hellenistic. Yeah. Let's just call it the Hellenistic teachings really run through both of them.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, so Well, yeah, we're gonna do the cup and the monad. I think there's a lot to talk about with the next one.
There is. That's why I think we should break it off.
And yeah, and we'll see. Maybe it'll be a 10-minute one.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
All right. Well, watch the next one, and thanks for listening. And
Talk to you later.
Yep.